Welcome to the Unraveling the Scriptures channel. The book of Genesis hides deep secrets, mysteries that challenge our understanding. The more we delve into its words, the more we realize there are hidden layers waiting to be revealed. One of the greatest mysteries of all lies in the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Why, among all the trees in the garden, was Adam allowed to freely eat from any of them except this one? What was so special about its fruit? What made this tree so different, so forbidden? Was it just a test of obedience, or is there something more? Something that was deliberately hidden from humanity? In this video, we will explore all interpretations of what the true fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil could be. We'll examine theories ranging from the most theological explanations to the most controversial ones, pointing to a secret guarded for millennia. Get ready for a journey of discovery and reflection. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and join me in unraveling this great enigma. The mystery of the forbidden fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Currently, there is a group of people who defend the idea that the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, mentioned in the biblical account, symbolizes the sexual relations between Adam and Eve. However, this interpretation is nothing more than a misconception propagated by those who are unfamiliar with the sacred texts and end up attributing meanings that the Bible never mentions. The truth is that this theory has no biblical foundation whatsoever. The forbidden fruit was, in fact, a literal fruit, and not a metaphor for the intimate relationship between Adam and Eve. Proof of this is that God himself commanded the couple to multiply, as recorded in Genesis 1:28. Furthermore, the command not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil was given to Adam before Eve was even created, as described in Genesis 2:16-17. Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. If this prohibition were related to sexual relations, it would not make sense for God to establish it before Eve's existence. The narrative makes it clear that the woman was created later, as recorded in Genesis 2:21-22. This detail reinforces that the divine command referred literally to the fruit of a specific tree, not any other symbolic interpretation. Therefore, the idea that the forbidden fruit represents sexual relations is unfounded and contradicts the biblical context itself. It is a conjecture with no basis in the scriptures, and any attempt to distort the meaning of the sacred text only causes confusion among readers less familiar with the original account. Those who interpret the divine command about the forbidden fruit as a reference to sexual relations directly contradict the explicit instruction God gave to the first couple. In Genesis 1:28, God commands Adam and Eve, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth." Here, indeed, there is figurative language associating fruitfulness with procreation. However, in the context of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the reference is clearly to a literal fruit, not intimate relations. From the beginning, God himself united Adam and Eve and instructed them to multiply. Therefore, suggesting that the forbidden fruit represents the sexual act is a mistake that ignores the biblical context. Moreover, Genesis 3 describes that when Eve was deceived by the serpent, she ate from the forbidden fruit and then gave it to Adam, who also consumed it. This leads to the question, if sin were related to intimate relations, why, after eating the fruit, did Adam and Eve feel ashamed of their nakedness? The answer lies in the fact that they lost the covering of God's glory. Before the fall, they were clothed in divine splendor, which surrounded them like a heavenly ornament. However, upon disobeying, they lost this spiritual garment, and the awareness of their nakedness was not due to a sexual awakening, but because of the awareness of losing communion and divine protection. Psalm 8:5 mentions that Adam and Eve were crowned with glory and honor, indicating that divine light clothed them. This celestial radiance covered their bodies, and it was precisely the loss of this glow that made them realize their nakedness and feel shame after sinning. A similar example can be found in Moses' experience. When he stayed in God's presence for many days, his face shone so intensely that the Israelites could not look at him directly. Just as Moses' face radiated light, Adam and Eve's bodies also shone before the fall, reflecting the purity of divine glory. However, when they disobeyed, that light faded, leaving them exposed and aware of their condition. Regarding the identity of the forbidden fruit, it is interesting to note that in popular imagination, it is often depicted as an apple, especially in Western tradition. This association, however, has no biblical basis and likely arose from a linguistic misunderstanding. In the Vulgate, the Latin translation of the Bible, Genesis 2:17 uses the word malum, which in Latin means evil and phonetically resembles malum, meaning apple. This wordplay may have led to confusion over time, resulting in the widespread idea that the forbidden fruit was an apple. However, the biblical text never identifies the species of the fruit, only mentioning that it was from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Therefore, claiming that Adam and Eve ate an apple in the Garden of Eden is an error based on a misinterpretation and is not supported by the scriptures. Another interpretation of the forbidden fruit suggests that it could have been a grape. According to Rabbi Meir, the fruit was a grape that was transformed into wine. The Midrash Bereshit Rabbah also supports this idea, stating that the forbidden fruit was pressed grapes, possibly alluding to wine. Furthermore, in chapter 4 of 3 Baruch, known as the Greek Apocalypse of Baruch, the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil is also identified as a grape. These interpretations are based on older traditions and sacred texts, like the Book of Enoch, which explore the symbolism in the Genesis narrative. Even today, many people believe that the forbidden fruit could have been a grape due to its association with wine and the ideas of knowledge and transformation. But what do you think? Could the forbidden fruit have been a grape? Share your opinion in the comments. Another common interpretation in antiquity suggests that the forbidden fruit could have been a fig. The Bible mentions in Genesis that after eating the fruit, Adam and Eve realized their nakedness and immediately sewed fig leaves to cover their bodies. Then the eyes of both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. Genesis 3:7. Rabbi Nehemiah Hayun supports the theory that the fruit was a fig, arguing that through what humiliated them, they were corrected. This concept suggests that the fig itself, associated with their fall, was used to cover them. Additionally, the fig is often linked with femininity, which is why it was associated with Eve in some traditions. During the Renaissance, the idea that the forbidden fruit was a fig competed with the apple as the predominant interpretation. Michelangelo, for example, depicted the fruit as a fig in his famous fresco on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. In addition to the grape and the fig, another fruit has been suggested as the possible forbidden fruit, the pomegranate, a fruit typical of the Middle East. Advocates of the theory that the Garden of Eden was located in this region propose that the fruit in question could actually have been a pomegranate. This fruit is widely known in the Middle East and was one of the first plants domesticated in the Eastern Mediterranean. The pomegranate is also associated with knowledge and the underworld in Greek mythology, especially in the legend of Persephone. According to the myth, Hades, the god of the underworld, offered Persephone a pomegranate to keep her in his domain. This connection to the world of the dead may have influenced the association of the pomegranate with forbidden knowledge for mortals. In addition to the pomegranate, there is a less conventional theory suggesting that the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil could have been wheat. Rabbi Yehuda supports this hypothesis, arguing that a baby only learns to call their mother and father after tasting the grain. In Hebrew, the word for wheat, kita, has a similar sound to ket, which means sin, reinforcing this interpretation. Although often confused with a seed, the wheat grain is, botanically speaking, a simple fruit called a caryopsis, with a structure similar to that of an apple. Just as the apple is a fleshy fruit containing seeds, the wheat grain is a dry fruit that absorbs water and surrounds a seed. The confusion arises because the fruit of grasses looks similar to certain seeds. Therefore, some interpretations suggest that the forbidden fruit could have been wheat or its grain. Perhaps the most surprising theory is that the forbidden fruit was, in fact, a mushroom. According to this hypothesis, the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil mentioned in the Bible could have been a psychoactive fungus. A 13th century fresco in the Plaincoureux Abbey in France depicts Adam and Eve next to a tree of knowledge that looks like a giant Amanita muscaria, a mushroom known for its psychoactive effects. The researcher Terence McKenna theorized that the forbidden fruit could be a reference to psychotropic plants and fungi, especially psilocybin mushrooms, which he believed played a central role in the evolution of the human brain. Before him, John M. Allegro had already proposed, in a widely documented but highly criticized study, that the mushroom could have been the forbidden fruit. However, another theory may be even more surprising, that the forbidden fruit was a banana. Proponents of this idea trace it back to the 13th century, when Nathan Hameati, in translating Moses's medical aphorisms by Maimonides, referred to the banana as the apple of Eden. In the 16th century, the scholar Menahem Lonzano stated that in Syria and Egypt, it was widely accepted that the banana was the true fruit of Eden. In addition to the interpretations already mentioned, as curious as it seems, there is also the theory that the forbidden fruit of Eden was the coconut. The explorer Charles George Gordon even identified the fruit of the tree of knowledge with the coco de mer, a rare and exotic species of coconut. With so many hypotheses, the question arises, which of these interpretations is correct? Which one makes the most sense? In reality, my view on the matter is that none of these theories corresponds to the truth. The biblical text states that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was unique and remained sealed in the Garden of Eden. This means that there would be no other trees of this kind available for people to consume the same fruit today. Furthermore, God placed cherubim and a flaming sword to protect both the tree and the Garden of Eden itself, preventing any access to its fruits. Therefore, any attempt to identify the forbidden fruit with something present in the modern world lacks biblical foundation. This view of mine is based on the ancient texts of the Book of Enoch, which clearly state that although the tree looked like others and its fruits resembled those of other trees, they were not the same fruits. The Book of Enoch describes the tree as a kind of date palm with fruits similar to grapes but much finer. Its fragrance spread over a great distance. I exclaimed, amazed, "How beautiful is this tree and how delicious its fruits are, just by looking." Enoch, chapter 31, verse 4. In this passage, Enoch asks the angel Raphael, who was accompanying him, about which tree it was that he showed. Raphael answers that it was the ancient father and mother, Adam and Eve, who ate the fruits of this tree and were thus expelled from the garden. According to the Book of Enoch, the fruit of this tree was similar to the date palm, but its fruits resembled grapes, only more delicate. Now, I would like to know your interpretation. What do you believe about this? May God bless you and see you soon.